First up, we will have Rafaèle Tordjman. She is the founder and CEO of Jeito Capital, a patient-driven biotech and biopharma firm with the help of a very strong background as a hemato-oncologist, and after 17 years at Sofinnova, Ms. Tordjman decided to launch Jeito Capital in 2018, closing at 200 million earlier this year and aiming to reach 500 million by the end of 2020. This thriving first-time fund is a testimony to the team's ambition and successful methods. Rafaèle Tordjman is here to discuss how to build a solid entrepreneur-investor relationship. She will be talking to us on how to develop and nurture a trustful investor-entrepreneur relationship towards value creation. So please welcome Rafaèle. Please take it away.
So thank you very much, Rajiv, and hello everyone. I'm very glad and honored to be there today. And indeed, I have chosen this topic, which is super important and key for success, which is the relationship between entrepreneur and investor to create value. So let me just say a little bit about me and the genesis of Jeito to explain how this relationship between entrepreneur and investor actually set up the scene for Jeito philosophy. So next slide. So as Rajiv already introduced me to you, I'm a physician specialized in hemato-oncology, and I've done also spending 5 years with patients, so really passionate, and that's my main driver since ever about patient and helping for treating patients. I've done also science as a scientist at INSERM, the French NIH, to understand what is behind the patient, i.e. the cells and the biology. And then I turned bad or good, I think good, finally, as an investor, learning investment at Sofinnova Partners, with one of the first funds a long time ago, particularly in Europe, but also in the US, in healthcare and as well in IT, actually. While I was at Sofinnova, I got the chance to invest in a dozen of companies, out of which only one lost, but particularly the success that allowed to bring returns, but as well building market leaders, and I will come back to that just at the next slide. In addition to these market leaders and returns, very importantly, these track record had generated for approved product and about 20 drugs in late stage clinical development that is in healthcare, because here I'm going to talk about healthcare, but venture, but through biotech and biopharma. It is a very important marker to get drugs to the patient. And from that, I founded Jeito recently with a very recent first close. In addition, I'm convinced that women are very important in the healthcare industry, and actually since ever in healthcare. And I created 10 years ago a group of women coming from the whole ecosystem of healthcare, from science to market access, through IP, through every stakeholders you could think of, just to help to do 1 + 1 = 3 and help better things for the patient and healthcare in general. Next slide. So some of the company I've been lucky to accompany, and with some exit already and value creation, and this is in different fields, different geography, mainly Europe and a little bit US with Flexion, and I will come to Ascendis just at the next slide. Just before that, the total of this company value creation and capitalization represents about 10 billions of euros as of today. So if we could go to the next slide. So that is one example, particular example of Ascendis, and I won't go to this heavy slide in detail, but just to show that it's what has inspired me for building Jeito and what we want to do with Jeito. So Ascendis is a company that I back the entrepreneur because I met him just before at his second venture, and Asalis was his third one. I didn't invest at Sofinnova in his second company. Nevertheless, we kept in touch and we built a relationship. And when he found his third companies and technology, he came back to me and Sofinnova to be financed and to accompany him with the money, but also with help all along. And we, as Sofinnova, we invested at the beginning and then exited at some point with already great return. But today the company worth 7 billion, actually even not more, 5 billion, like in the slide of 5.5. And what we want to do with Jeito, and I will come to that, is instead of exiting early and being, investing and having many companies in the portfolio, is really focusing on future market leaders and helping them all along. Next slide. So what does it mean, added value serving the entrepreneur? Next slide. So Jeito. So because Jeito indeed is really based on, and you will see our mission is to go faster for the patient, serving the entrepreneur, achieving a major financial return. And this order is very important. So what is Jeito in a nutshell is a quite new fund, as you understood, but based on different diagnostic I've made in the industry and the investment industry. One is the fact that the entrepreneur, most of the time, they are very much constrained, particularly in Europe, but not only. So not enough money, but also not enough, pushing them toward their ambition. So that's something. That's one point. The second one is to allow them to accomplish their ambition. There is a need of continuity in terms of investment and accompanying them. So it's the diagnostic I've made looking at my previous company's portfolio, but also looking at other funds. And from that, so Jeito is a fund of 200 million euro, with the very, very important differentiation is to, again, invest in continuity, investment pushing and accelerating towards market leaders where we will get the maximum of value. But also, very importantly, the team of Jeito is composed of people from the industry and across the whole value chain of healthcare. So really serving the entrepreneur and not just investing and participating just to boards and that's it. It's really to be kind of shadow board for the company and the entrepreneur. So we have people, and I will come back to that, very experienced in the whole value chain. And we are targeting to get a portfolio of 15 companies and and well positioned, just new but fresh money, and particularly in this COVID environment, that's very important also to guide entrepreneurs. Next slide. So that's the model I was referring to, one of the diagnostic I've made, which is the lack of continuity, and I would love to hear during the question your feedback from entrepreneur about this. The fact that I need to get to look after money with one first investor, and then even though we will need and the company will need others, but having the same one referent investor all along, that's very helpful. Otherwise, there are these alignment and there are disruption of the strategy potentially of the company, and the entrepreneur has to adapt to his new investor for getting the money finally, and so losing time and disruption again and of the strategy and potential losing value. So that's the diagnostic I've made, and it's particularly true in healthcare and life science, but I think in others. And I'm not the only one who had done that with Jeito, and there are other funds, particularly in the US as well, with Bain Capital, for example, life science, who had been doing the same diagnostic and having a fund all along. Next slide. So the main differentiation of Jeito, as I earlier mentioned, is the team. And the team is and here you have the founding team, actually the 7 of us, is coming from the whole part of the value chain, starting by the science with Claudio, translational science, so from the science to the drug and to the patient. Cyril, who is more clinical development. Rachel, based in New York, in the US, and she's more patent on the patent lawyer angle, but with big experience as well on corporate development and pharma. Xenia, more kind of entrepreneur in residence, And Annette, a real deal maker, even all of us, we are deal maker, but she was the head of GSK M&A and licensing for more than 30 billions of deals, and then in the last 10 years in VC. And Sabine, who is a market access one, commercialization, heading J&J France, and then EMA, with a very, very good achievement on market, on commercialization of great products. And here, it's not just experts, it's really to integrate, have these people integrated into the team to, again, be very much involved and incentivized to make a success alongside our entrepreneurs. So with obviously, and we could speak about that later on, a balance between being very active while not being on the driving seats. Next slide. One very also important, always thinking about ecosystem and global, because healthcare, even though we are very much focusing on European companies, but not only, ecosystem in healthcare is like everywhere, but it particularly is important. And to see how creating value alongside the entrepreneur and the company, in addition to the team, we have advisors, so that's not super original, but helpful. And then the third circle here on the slide is strategic partnership, i.e. on some bottleneck we have identified, like manufacturing or or clinical trial improvement with digital in silico AI companies. So all to, again, improve, accelerate the development of and the value creation in these companies. The fourth one, which is something that is not related to you directly, entrepreneurs, but it's in a way what we want to build with entrepreneurs, what is very important for portfolio companies, is the same with our investors, because we are in the same situation than you, is raising money regularly, and the relationship with what we call everyone calls limited partners should not be limited, actually should be unlimited, because they should also bring value in this whole ecosystem and indirectly help our portfolio companies. Next slide. So here just to come to our topic and questions, just to tell you again what I said about the mission, which is in the good order here. It's really important, and we want to go further with the entrepreneur to push to his ambition, accelerate, thinking long term, but help to accelerate the progress and the value creation. And obviously we are there to make money for our LPs. So and it's why really I wanted to choose this topic, and it's a really open discussion with you and with questions, is the relationship between entrepreneurs and investors is really super important. Next slide. So just to open the discussion, I put this just some bullet points on the relationship and the between entrepreneur and investor. It's a virtuous circle, even though obviously it's open to outside world. And I put some ideas and not ideas, but points that seem very important in this relationship. So what really let's start by the investor. What he owes to entrepreneur is really to serve the entrepreneur in terms of help, network, trust as well, and helping in building competencies and also coaching, pushing the entrepreneur to grow. Because one of the issues with innovation, at the opposite of private equity and buyout, is that we are so much focusing on innovation that we forget about, not forget, but let's improve and let's focus as well on execution. And we are there. Also, coaching is important to help the managers to grow and to evolve according to the evolution of the company. So serving is very important. Alignment, we owe you that also, entrepreneurs, and that's on obviously alignment on company objectives and also our capacity to follow. That's important, not to be in a situation where you would like to continue the company or to sell, but let's take the example, you want to continue, you want to raise more money, but as we don't have enough reserves in our fund, we will push you to do something different than your ambition and killing value or decreasing the value. So that's very important in general also. So just recommendation: ask your investor that will come how much money they could invest, and also what is their goal in terms of exit timing and how much money reserve they may have, and then you will build like that your syndication of investors. That will be very important. And obviously it's going beyond the money, i.e. what I just said before. That is not just the money that we should bring, and we should trust the entrepreneur and the manager. One thing that is important, if we have some questions, that we should share, because otherwise, what I was often saying to other co-investors in a company, if you don't trust the CEO anymore and the team, I mean, we try to improve. I mean, trust you cannot improve, but at least if you have some question, let's try to improve and to get answers. Otherwise, let's separate, because we need to be on the same boat and to bring the maximum. So that's on the side of the investor, and I put limited partner because it's very, very important. Keep in mind that we have constraint on our side of duration of the fund, that could influence our investment in your companies. But on the other hand, we know what is important with a relationship investor, in a way, entrepreneur, because Jeito is a startup in a way as well, and we are raising money. On the entrepreneur side, I would like to mention some very important features. One is transparency, obviously. Transparency, and what I call no surprise effect, is really with the investor, but also with the board members, to be sure that human being in general, not to learn something that they will learn by someone else, and just to prepare. And if I take the example of Ascendis, very successful company with this entrepreneur, the CEO and founder, when he came back to me, he said to me, in 2 years from now, it was a company based in Denmark. And he said to me, in 2 years from now, I will have to go to the US for personal reasons, but also to develop the company, but just to be completely transparent with you. So, 2 years after, when he was preparing to go to the US anyway, it was good for the company, now listed on the NASDAQ. It was clear. So just a small example, but just to really, transparency is always paying out positively, and with no surprise effects. Reporting, obviously, you are there to report to investor and to us. But you should think reporting as, are you happy with what I'm reporting? I mean, what should I do for improving? What is your advice? And then alignment as well, company objective, the same, and motivation of the entrepreneur. You and the investor should question your motivation all along. Be sure you are well incentivized. What is your also willingness to continue, to how you want to build the rest of the team, etc. So that's my first recommendation or points to open the discussion.
Well, thank you, Rafaèle. That was a wonderful opening presentation session today. We do have some questions that we received from some of the audience members. So the first one came in from Isaac Littman, and his question is, what is the importance of the advisory board, and what is the right time to bring the advisory board online? Okay.
So advisory board, I guess it's on the in addition to the board, I guess.
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah. So advisory board is, and we say we have the same question for Jeito. It's obviously it's always important because of visibility, of competencies and network. It is good to have one. It should be flexible, because sometimes you according to what you will ask them, you should have according to your different areas, or and when to bring. I think as soon, it's not I would say the first, if you are early stage in the company development, it's probably not the first thing after the investors and the board to build, but indeed visibility. But you need flexibility, because these people, what is their motivation? Not only to see their conflicts of interest, but also their motivation, and it should be not be sure you could renew this advisory board.
And I believe Damien from Cayuga Biotech has a question he will directly ask you.
Yes. So my name is Damien Cadell. I'm the founder at Cayuga Biotech, and we're developing treatments for a variety of bleeding episodes worldwide. And so within this competition, we're trying to do tech for good. If I was pitching you in person, it would probably be more a, let's say, US-Europe focused thing on either rare bleeding disorders or anticoagulant reversal. How, as a company, should we balance that if we also have things for like trauma, postpartum hemorrhage that are huge problems in the developing world?
So your question is, if I well understood, is about geography of your development product. Yeah.
Even more, I'd say the market potential. Are you looking still foremost? Your focus would be on U.S. and Europe and the large market potential, or is it more worldwide benefit?
Yeah. So indeed, even though we are based here in Paris and we do European companies, we do US companies as well. But then for your question, which is super important, and I didn't say that about Jeito, is to target the biggest market. And finally for at least pharma, is when you look at G5, so those 5 biggest countries in Europe and US, you are at 65% of the market, and even close to 70% if you include Japan. So yes, it's what we are targeting, both of these markets, but you should, as a healthcare company or biotech company, because even though China is a very big market, but today, the numbers are telling you what is the reality is mainly G5 plus US.
Thank
and
you.
in terms of indication, I didn't get all the indication, but you should look at what the indication for which you will get the biggest, the biggest price, even if not the bigger population of patients, but the bigger price, as soon as possible. So it's to go to commercialization with even it's a niche, but it could be a niche with a big price. And then, because anyway, the price are always going down in this market. So it's what I will recommend in terms of indication to start, to go as soon as possible. And also, why accelerating all the time, particularly in biotech, biopharma, because we are dependent of the patents, as you know. So that's why 1 year of patent loss is 1 year of peak sales loss.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Damien. Thank you, Rafael.
Bonjour, Rafael.
Bonjour.
I wanted to ask about your opinion about preventive medicine and about food tech. Are you moving into these areas, specifically amide proteins is fixing our food system one protein at a time, starting with the first healthy sugar substitute. And as you know, diabetes and sugar overconsumption is the world's #1 health challenge. How are you viewing stuff in this area, which is not curing disease, but preventing the disease?
Yeah. I think prevention obviously is very, very interesting. Then it's how it's always the same. Who is going to pay for this product? So that's, the value will be there. So there are prevention, clearly more and more insurance companies are paying for that. Here it's, what you are talking about is, what is the limit between or difference between, prescription products versus, food tech that could be useful. It's like, all what is about microbiome and, versus yogurt. So it's just to be extreme a little bit. So, yeah, potentially interesting, but then what is the patent, or what is your barrier at entry for that? But yeah, so always it's like going faster to the market. It's who is going to pay and how much. So that's how to see the value in general, in any not only in healthcare, in every field, but in biotech, biopharma, we think about that, or the entrepreneurs, they think about that too late sometimes, and you lose value because you do things, in one after the other.
And the next question we have is from Joe. Could you please introduce yourself and ask Rafael?
Hi, my name is Joe from Dubry. My question is regarding the industry that my company is in. We are a digital therapeutics company. And in our strategy and launching to the US, we're hoping to get an FDA approval for us to be able to legitimately launch into the market. How do you think the industry is perceived in Europe currently, and what are your suggestions regarding obtaining the CE marking?
Yeah. So if I may ask, and again, we are not only Europe. We always push our company to go even first to the FDA, or not first, but at the same time, and to value both. But so in digital therapies, may I ask which indication?
We're a service. We're an app that helps children with cognitive therapy.
With what? Sorry.
Cognitive therapy. So
cognitive therapy. No, because all what I know, and I'm not a specialist on digital therapeutics. So, but what I know is that these digital therapeutics, for the moment, are mostly for neurological disorders, behavior disorders. So I think it's indeed very interesting, and it could go fast with the approval. Now again, how are you going to price that? I don't know. So, and the issue with CE mark is in Europe is that finally, even though it could go faster, it's like for device, it could go faster. Nevertheless, you have to then prove really the added value to get your price. So, so that's what I could answer. But you should go. If I may, I have a very good contact with passionate about digital therapeutics with the ex-guy of Sanofi, who was the chief digital health of Sanofi, and he loves and knows very well digital therapeutics. So happy to put you in touch.
That would be amazing. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Joe. We also have a question from Jumei. Would you like to directly ask the question? Yeah.
Hey, it's Jumei here at Rafaèle. I'm founder and CEO of Microgen Biotech, and we are based in Ireland. So we actually use the microbiome trying to reduce the heavy metal, the toxic heavy metal, from the field, to reduce this heavy metal from crops, and at the same time to reduce the contamination in the soil as well. So at this moment, we're at the scaling stage. So we just finished our Series A fund, and having a very, experienced board of advisors for our company is very important. So at this moment, we have a couple of them, but then we need another couple of the good advisors in different geography. So just ask a very general question: what kind of the general kind of industry norm that for the remuneration for the board of advisors? So at this moment, the advisors are very good. They know that they have the belief with our company, but there's different requirement of the advisors. But we want kind of have a standard remuneration package for the advisor to keep them and to seek good advisors, at the same time to maintain the advisors on our board.
So just, and back to the first question I got about advisory board. What is good is to, on your board of the company, to put independent board member that are kind of advisor, but to be really involved, people of the industry, and to be involved, and that are not investors on the board. So to balance that, and then advisors on the separate board. So your question is about package or remuneration?
Yeah, so options and pay.
Yeah. So it depends on the stage of the company. Fees. It's between not chairman is between. It depends on the stage of the company again. If it's a publicly listed versus early stage company, but it's I would say for a board member, not chairman, independent, is between, I would say, 50 to 80,000 euros or dollars, and for a chairman it's more, obviously, but. And for options, and then for advisory board, scientific advisory board, it's less in general. It's more by like fees per day. And then the options, it's again, it depends here of the stage of the company.
I think Series A stage.
Series A stage, yeah. So on the board, it could be between 0.5 to 1% of the company for an independent board member.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Just be careful. Take a vesting as well for the board member. At least they stay 2 years to get that.
Okay. And how about the advisory members? Is that normal to you?
In general, it's more 0.5 to 1%, but for the chairman of the advisory, and otherwise 0.2, 0.3 per member.
That's very specific. That's great. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Shimei. Rafael, a question. You've been talking to so many of these startups right now, as well as in your career. How do you choose your entrepreneurs?
So indeed, that's because actually when I said 13 investment I made, only one loss, and actually this loss I didn't listen to my gut feeling about the entrepreneur, not only gut feeling but the alignment as well, and gut feeling. So how to choose? I mean, it's just I'm using what I've done as a doctor. And trying to see. So obviously, it's. Let me step back. An entrepreneur that had already done a previous experience or a first-time CEO, it doesn't change. Obviously, it is always helpful to get an entrepreneur that had been successful in the previous past. But it. The most successful are often the first-time CEO. And I have both in my portfolio. At Sendis, it was his third companies, but nevertheless, he got issues. He didn't want to work anymore with VCs, and we worked together. So I don't answer to your question precisely because it's about again alignment, transparencies, and ambition. And obviously understanding of the science. Let me summarize. A very good entrepreneur and CEO is the one that, because people are mixing sometimes entrepreneur and manager. It could be very good entrepreneur and not a great manager, or by the way, managers that never be at the beginning of the company. But a very good entrepreneur and CEO is the one that will be able to recruit people that are better than him or her in what she or he doesn't know to do, and really orchestrate all the team to grow and to learn from the others, but be able. So in addition, obviously, to the science and to all of that. But so that's a way to answer to your question.
That's really good. Rounding out yourself and the team so that it's an overall a stronger company. I think that's great advice.
And being able, to hire people that are better than her or him in what she or he doesn't know to do, and that's a good sign, because the ego is behind, and it's for the benefit. You grow. It's like an elevator. You will go up with everyone going up.
Yeah, that's true. And on a related note, this question came in on the chat. Startups are hard and they often demand 24/7 attention. So how would you advise entrepreneurs to maintain the right life balance, particularly at a time like this?
So I'm not the right person to ask, because I'm myself an entrepreneur with Jeito, building from scratch, obviously from my previous experience at Sofinnova, but with 2 years of on the road and building the team, and so I'm not the good one. But let's say, it's difficult because it's our motivation, it's our life. Obviously, we need to, and I have children, so we need to. I'm not probably the perfect mother, but so to balance, it's difficult to answer. It just may be sometimes that we need to pause at some point. Because we want so much to move forward, and it's stressful, raising money, not to get the money. So so I would say sometimes just to pause, and I would say that something good out of something very bad, which is COVID and confinement, at least for us and for me and this Jeito startup, even it's already a big fund, it's to pause and to see the priorities. So sometimes it's why it's good also to get that from your lead investor, really to build this relationship, to help. It's like a guardian angel to help also, to while pausing as well, is to get more new energy, but also to get an helicopter view, where are my priority, and so I recommend to do that often, and and to do some sport and what you like and enjoy life at the same time.
Yeah, and I believe Ilan disagrees with me. He says that entrepreneurs are not required to work 24/7. They just skip lunch and work 25/7. So that's the other perspective. All good. Yesterday, we actually had the speakers from Microsoft, Peggy Johnson and Tamara Steffens from the M12 team. And Microsoft has obviously gotten behind female founders, as well as we also are supporters of female founders as part of the XTC, and we have a special award track for that. So a question to you, Rafaèle, you've been such a big promoter of women leadership in the healthcare industry through your WITH association. Any tips from your side or experiences on how we can promote more diversity in management teams?
So I think one thing is that we have not been used to be together. That doesn't mean we exclude. And this group with women innovating together in healthcare 10 years ago, it is not again to exclude men, and it's really to be used to work together and to do more network and to help each other. I think one way. Obviously, one way to help is really to identify these women and help these women and help them by helping them in this network, to navigate in the network and give them more and more network. What I found very hard, even though I'm trying to help other women, during our fundraising and in the team, you've seen in the picture we have several women. And we were pitching most of the time two women together. And actually, it's what is difficult is that there is this kind of homophilia, like women that are helping other women. It's just natural. It's like men, you've been used to work with men. So it's why putting women together and trying to put women experience that could help other younger women will be helpful. And so it's just identifying them and help them to be more on the front. So it's not the best recipe that I could give, but at least it's the feedback, because we need to be more pushy and not pushy, but more thinking about okay, it's great to collaborate, but it's great as well to be on the front line.
Yes, I think that totally makes sense. And, all these changes in the world have got everybody thinking in this direction. So I think it's hopefully...
And just to answer to your question, also part of it, initially I was against, this quota, you say in English, quota of actually it's not the English word, so quota in board. And initially I said, why I will be there, because I'm a woman, but finally it was needed, and we need to accelerate. And what I'm trying to do with WIZ, but also with the foundation that we are creating for younger women in university, and here is healthcare, but not only therapeutics, it could be health tech as well, is to really help young women to not to lose the time, because I think I have lost time and others have lost time. The time to realize that finally it's different for us, but it should be not. But time is time, and is needed, because mindset are the mindset that we've been educated with, all of us. So just to give you also something about women helping other women, is that we've seen that during the fundraising, but also we have much more companies pitching Jeito with women leaders than in the past when I was, not with this women environment, let's say. So it's natural, but let's help. And there are great men helping us as well.
There's one of the other award tracks that we have introduced in XTC is also around COVID-19 innovation, just given the times that we're in with the pandemic. So a question for you is, between how has COVID-19 actually made an impact on Jeito's portfolio decisions? And a related one is, along that front, what disassociates Jeito from other biotech funds in tackling these issues?
Yeah, so actually the COVID reinforces our differentiation. That is obviously, but healthcare is very important. We could see that with COVID, that it's without good healthcare there is no more economy. But Jeito compared with other funds, I would start by that, had been reinforced in terms of helping the team, really serving the team, because it's complex. I mean, biotech, biopharma, development of drugs, it's complex, or let's say it's sophisticated. So the team we have, kind of platform with the whole ecosystem as I described, serving the entrepreneur, is even more important during and post-COVID, to anticipate the acceleration post-COVID, but also to navigate in more and more complex and new way of managing the development of drugs. i.e., FDA, EMA, they are changing the rules because more and more things will be done remotely. I mean, clinical trials had been stopped everywhere because everyone was focusing on COVID, first the risk of contagion, and then the fact that if you were not in severe disease, you cannot start again your clinical trial. So having this team helping all along, with this continuity, reinforce the differentiation positively of Jeito. And the COVID impact clearly for biotech, biopharma had been much less than in any other industry, because these companies, they are not doing any revenues since even until long, but or not long, but until big value. As you know, it's on projected sales and could worth billions even without selling one drug. So Jeito, sorry, I lost my ID. So COVID, we realized nevertheless that there is an impact on the clinical trials and could get delays in these companies. So what happened is that as we got very fresh money with no previous portfolio, we got even more deals, a lot of deals. Actually, in 5 months, we got 150 deals, out of which almost 130 are in our focus of investment. So again, reinforcement for us, but realizing that it's going to be even more complex, or let's say sophisticated. And these companies, why we got more deals, because of our strategy to help these companies, fresh money, but also thinking more longer term. And these companies, they realize that they will have a delay. So what we've seen also is a lot of reopening of rounds that were just made, but they are thinking of delay because of the COVID and the clinical trials, and they want to anticipate the acceleration.
Got it. And I know last question, because I know you have to also leave, but this came in from Nicola, and his question is, and it ties well to your background also, that do you have examples of founders being scientists who keep at the helm of the company until it goes IPO or M&A? And then how do you coach them to manage it?
The best success, actually, LPs had met some statistic and looked at it was some years ago, but I'm sure it's still true today. The best exit are the one when the founder is still the CEO or at the C level. So when you keep in the founding team up to the exits, these people, it's where you got the best successes. So yes, I have several examples actually, and where the scientists and so. There are some examples also where they've been in corporation that obviously helpful to have a business sense, but again, they are, and we are very willing to promote this kind of young, or let's say sometimes they are even old, but young in the entrepreneurship in biotech. So it's really about, yeah, indeed, helping them, coaching them, and to back to one question you got earlier about, you know, how to identify these entrepreneurs is also how on one hand they listen to investors, but on the other hand they are forceful, because if they are yes man, it's not going to work, you know, because, you know, they need to drive. We are in the back seat, but listening as well. So that's an important balance for this. So yeah, so it's all about human being adventure.
Thank you, Rafael. And as we wrap up your session, what would be the best way for any of the startups to get in touch with you if they would be interested?
So Rafael, so at jeito.life, so RAFAELE at jeito.life.
All right, thank you very much. We will share that information. Appreciate it. And now we'll move on to the next session.